Hi, everyone, and welcome to our October Hope session. I'm Heidi Parker. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Community Initiatives Manager here at Arts and Healing Initiative, and I am your Zoom host today. This program is presented as part of our free Hope series, Healing Online for People Everywhere, which we created to support the resilience of our global community through social emotional arts. Each workshop offers a supportive space for connection, healing, and empowerment as we navigate the changes in our world. If you have previously attended a Hope session, welcome back. If you are new, thank you for joining today. We are grateful you are all here to create, learn, and grow together as a community. Today's program is in a meeting format, so please keep yourself muted until prompted otherwise. We are recording today's session in speaker view. We do pause during any reflection to be shared on our YouTube channel, and you are welcome to leave your cameras on as you feel comfortable, as we'd love for you to actively participate. Our session today is scheduled for an hour and a half. Feel free to add questions in the chat as they arise, or use the raise hand function. You may also notice that today's session does not have slides. Instead, the whiteboard and chat functions will be used throughout. Before we begin, we would like to start by acknowledging the Tongva Nation, on whose land the city of Los Angeles, where we are based, rests today. We hold respect and gratitude for the Tongva people who still consider themselves the caretakers of this land. By their example, we are reminded of our responsibility to our planet and to one another. Let's take a moment in our own way to honor the Indigenous communities of past and present on whose land you are joining from today. And feel free to honor those communities in the chat. I'd like to welcome today's presenter. Gabriela Camara is a therapist, artist, and social emotional arts facilitator with a specialized focus in trauma work. Gabriela draws upon both traditional talk therapy and the creative arts in her work with adults, adolescents, children to help her clients heal, cope in adaptive ways, and establish plans for sustainable long-term functioning. So welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on your Friday morning, and I want to welcome you all. And before we get started, let's just all take a second to get grounded in our space and settle into our day. If you want to move around or stretch or just get comfortable, just attend to any needs you might have. And feel free to do that throughout the session. All right? Take care of your needs. And as I pull up this whiteboard, alrighty. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Before I get started, I'm going to let you know a little bit about the whiteboard because it is a little bit different than slides. One of the nice things about the whiteboard is that you all will follow as I move along, and I can show you some stuff. One thing that is just important to note is at the top it says that you are following me in a yellow box. If you do move on the screen on your own because you have your own controls on this whiteboard, it will stop following me. So if you get out of sync with the rest of the group, just click that button on the top and it'll bring you back to join me. Okay, and if anyone has any problems or questions, if that happens or you need some help, just let me know. And you're always welcome to use the chat as well for questions, concerns, or just the raise hand feature if you have a question or something you want to share. I see that we have people joining us from all around. I see Nashville, lots of Los Angeles or California. I see Chicago. So thank you everybody for joining us from all across. And in England, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. That's wonderful. I am in Los Angeles as well. It has been very hot here, so I hope everyone is staying cool. So let me start with an introduction to me, a short introduction to me and my work, with this lovely picture of me. As Heidi said, my name is Gabriella. I'm a therapist, an artist, and a mental health educator, social emotional arts facilitator. What that means is that I work with people on helping them figure out ways for sustainable functioning and wellness in their lives. And specifically, I love to use expressive and creative arts in therapy, helping people use creative mediums to process through their experiences or maybe their trauma narratives. My research was in uh, using creative arts interventions to process clinical trauma work. Um, and my background was in acute mental health, and I worked for many years in residential and psychiatric, and I saw firsthand how trauma and difficult life experiences can take away someone's voice, and art is a way to give them that back. Um, so that's the space that I work in. I do a lot of neurodiversity affirming care, expressive arts. I work with a lot of artists in therapy. And I work with a lot of creative approaches in therapy. So people who have been to therapy before and want something different. Um, so that's a little bit about my work. And now here's a mini introduction to our little session today. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take some time and define resiliency. What does that mean to us? What is resilience? Right? We're going to look at a few images of maps and see what resonates with us, how they look, how they feel, what's the differences, what are the similarities. We're going to spend some time as a group brainstorming and coming up with some of the things that we think are important in our own resilience journey. Spend some time sharing, and then we'll come together and have some conclusions, reflections, and allow everyone to attend to what they learned in the session. Okay. And what you'll need around you is just whatever drawing or coloring utensils you might have. You need a piece of paper. And if you'd like a ruler or some sort of straight edge, you don't need one. Okay. And oops. So as we start going through these slides on resiliency, I'm going to invite you to take one side of your paper, and that will be the back side of your paper. Okay. And on that page, I would like you to explore who you are. Think of it as your author's book jacket, right? Who is the maker of the map, right? And you can use that space to bring yourself into a more creative headspace, to explore things that are salient for you right now, or to put some things aside, get them out of your mind. And as we move through, I will help guide you through the different steps in your map. Okay. What is resilience? Resilience is our ability to bounce back from stress and adversity, right? One thing that'll happen in life is that we'll have an exposure to an event, a stressor, right? Something will happen that will create an emotional response in us. Our nervous system will respond. And what happens is we're exposed, we have a response, our nervous system will assess the situation, use its coping skills or mechanisms, and then adapt and recover from that event. And then from there, we either adjust or we move into growth. And the loop continues, right? So resilience is our ability, is how we move through that process of appraisal and and understanding and assessment and coping with a stressor. Now, what's the importance of studying resilience? Why do we study it? Well, first of all, it is a shift away from typical pathology mindset around mental wellness and mental functioning, right? When we look at resilience rather than trauma, it allows us to take a more positive psychology approach to looking at the ways we cope with difficult experiences. It also has applications in other fields, right? It has applications in communities, and it has important implications in the way that our communities function and build strength. And one of the more recent areas of research in resilience is actually called post-traumatic growth. So most of us have heard of post-traumatic stress, right? Post-traumatic growth is what happens when, through our appraisal, through our coping mechanisms, through our ability to be resilient to these situations, we develop a space that we can grow from our adversity, from the things that have challenged us. So now we're going to talk about some of the core features of resilience. Okay, and at this stage, I'm going to invite everyone to flip over their paper. Okay, and what we're going to do on that paper is I'd like you to take one of your markers or pencils or whatever it is, and I'm going to invite you to just draw 3 to 5 points, little dots on the page, wherever you like. There's no way to do it wrong. And we just follow the process and see what comes out of it. So the points that we put on the page, these are going to be the points on our map. Okay? And the points on our map are going to represent the pieces of developing resilience, the aspects, the features of resilience that are salient for you. Right? What do you see as important in your own journey? What do you see as things you'd like to acquire or build on the way? And as I move through some of these core features and we talk through them, it's a space for you to pick what you think is important to you, what areas you'd like to focus on, and use those points to represent each one of those areas. You can label the points if you want. You can start drawing or coloring around them. Feel free to work as we talk. And feel free to ask any questions as I go through these. If anything is unclear or you would like more explanation, feel free to let me know as well. So some of the core features of resilience here. Yes, the prompt is just, right now we're just doing a few dots on the page, 3 to 5 dots anywhere on the page. And those dots are going to represent the core features of your journey through resilience. And as I talk through these things, we're not quite there yet. You can pick the ones that apply to you, or if something that comes to mind that falls under one of these categories, that can also be one of your points. Okay, is that clear to everybody? Okay. So we have some of these hallmarks of resilience, right? How do we know that resilience is present, right? Well, there are a lot of ways we can look at it. We can break it down into psychological traits, right? The ability to regulate our emotions is a hallmark of resilience, right? The ability to respond to emotional experiences, to overwhelm in a way that benefits us. This often looks like strategies like mindfulness. In CBT, we talk about cognitive reframing, different stress management techniques, right? How do you bring yourself down when you're overwhelmed? Okay. Um, so emotional regulation, our way of regulating through difficult experiences. And we talked about some of the strategies for that. Those, for example, would be something you could put as a point, or regulation in general could be something you put as a point, right? And the reason if emotional regulation is a sign of resilience is because it can help people work through and like move through overwhelming feelings that make coping difficult and undermine our resilience, our ability to respond effectively. Another important feature that comes up is self-efficacy, our ability, our feeling that we can influence things in our lives, right? The idea that I can make an effect with my actions in my own life is self-efficacy, right? When we have high self-efficacy, we have greater persistence, we have greater willingness to take on tasks because we believe that what we do has an impact. Is that something you feel like you need to collect on your journey to resilience? Is that something that you struggle with? Or is it something you have already and you can put that aside? Right? Another one on here is optimism, a positive outlook on life, right? A belief that good things will happen. This is a hard one. It's very hard to be constantly optimistic, I think. You know, especially we live in a culture and a society with a lot of trauma, a lot of fears, a lot of pain. The question was, if we already have these, should we put them on our maps? That's up to you. We're going to go through quite a few. There's a few more, so we're going to go through and you can decide which ones you want to put on your map. If you'd like, you can make a little list on the side and then decide at the end. If you feel like you have it completely and you don't need it, I would encourage you to wait for something you feel like you do want to collect, right? But if you feel like it's something that's really salient for you and you want it on your map, it's your map. You get to choose. You get to choose what this journey looks like for you. So in terms of psychological traits, these are the kind of things that are supportive towards resilience. Yes, I saw there was a hand and it went away. You're welcome to unmute if you have something to say. No, you're fine. So I talked about social support. This is another feature of resilience, right? Our community, the importance of relationships, right? Developing strong connections and having strong relationships that provide emotional, practical, informational assistance to us that can help us co-regulate, right? Different types of networks, having family support, whatever your family, you define your family as, peer support, and having community support, right? And then cognitive flexibility, which is our ability to be flexible in the way we think and explore situations. Our problem solving skills, our ability to approach things from multiple angles to find a solution, to be creative in our approach to problems. our ability to adapt and to shift, as well as our ability to reframe negative experiences and make meaning out of them, to view challenges as and setbacks as a chance or an opportunity to develop a new skill, or as an opportunity to learn or grow. So these are like some of the core features. When we look at resiliency, these are sort of the hallmarks of resilience: having adequate social support, feeling connected, being flexible in our ability to respond to things in life, and having the psychological traits that keep us moving forward. Okay? And there are some other things too. And this is where we get creative, right? And I encourage you at this point, is there anything else that you would like to put on there or that comes to mind? Feel free to put it in the chat. And let's spend a few minutes with that. What are some other things that you think are a sign of resilience, or you think about in terms of somebody who is resilient, or within resilient communities, what do we see? And there's no wrong answers. What feels right to you? Open-mindedness, that's beautiful, yes. Thankfulness, sense of humor, beautiful. Presence, industrious. Ability to let go of emotions that still hurt, that's a hard one. Feeling disarmed, strength. Self-awareness, beautiful. Absolutely. I think a sense of purpose in the world and understanding, right, is also helpful. Curiosity, beautiful. I love that. The possibilities, yes. Gratitude, so important, right? And some of these go along with like optimism, yes, hope and faith, ability to reframe negative experiences, right? Like, um, I think of the beginner's mind, right? Some of you might be familiar with that, to be in the beginner's mindset of excitement, of possibility, of curiosity, of excitement, of optimism, humor, yes. All of these are beautiful things, and these all can belong on your maps, right? These are so important. Our resourcefulness, beginner's mindset, growth mindset, etc. Yes, beautiful. These are all beautiful examples of things that can really support us on our journey to resilience, right? Humor, adaptability, resourcefulness, right? They all help us cope with difficult experiences, with stressors, with difficult things. Any other final thoughts on what might the core features of resilience, or what that might look like? Anyone is welcome to unmute or speak if they like. Okay. So each point on your map is going to represent one of these things. It might be none of these things. You could come up with something that's wholly your own, right? And around those points, you get to create sort of a point of interest on your map, right? So what impacts our resilience, right? We know now what it looks like, and what some of the factors might be that makes it useful for us. But what are the things that impact our ability to cope and respond to adversity, right? Now here's some of them, right? Personality traits, individual factors, individual coping strategies, what we have accessible to us in our toolbox of coping. What were we taught? How were we taught to cope? Right? Environmental factors, socioeconomic status, cultural influences have a big impact on resilience. Today, we're talking about individual resiliency, but there's a big space for community resiliency. How do we build resilience in communities? And that creates a baseline for our individual resilience. Developmental factors, childhood experiences. What did you learn? What were you taught? What was mirrored to you? What age and stage of life are you at? Because those can have an impact. So all of these things come together and meld to influence and impact our ability to adapt and respond to stress and adversity. And now I'm going to invite you to think about what's connecting those dots. What fills the space around them? What creates the terrain? What creates the geography of your map? And I kind of invite you and encourage you to start thinking in that space of what surrounds these points of interest on your map. And as you do that, also feel free to put in the chat, what are the things that you feel impact your resilience? Either yours or your communities. What comes up for you? Discipline. Life situations, absolutely. Trauma is a big one we can put up there. Yeah, generational trauma, absolutely. Intergenerational trauma affects both individuals and communities. Yeah. Anything else? Learned behavior, absolutely. Grit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All of these things move in together to meld together to influence our resilience, which influences our psychological traits, our cognitive flexibility, our social supports. So they're all connected, right? The degree to which basic needs have or have not been met, beautiful. Persistence, yes, absolutely. The way that we've been attended to, what is our baseline, right? All of these things come together to create our ability to respond to difficulties. And through our resilience, we respond in these different ways. So when we look at creating a resilience map, we can look at the points of our map as being the things that come out of resilience, the things that build up resilience, the things that are the core features of it. And we can see our geography, we can see the map as a whole as what are the things that create the landscape for our journey. As we chart a course, what are the things that we need to be aware of? Does anyone have any questions or reflections or responses to this before we move to the next piece? Okay. So now let's look at some maps. Okay. These are going to be just images of maps. Um, and I want you to think about, what do you notice? What do you like in certain ones? What do you shy away from? What resonates with you? And just take a look. And you can continue to work on your personal maps as you go along. We will get, as we go on, we'll add more and more. But I invite you to just take a look at these maps and see what resonates with you, right? What do you all notice in this map? What stands out to you? There's no wrong answers. A castle. Yeah. Open space. The blues and greens are beautiful in this map, yes. A lot of water. Yeah, bodies of water. I also noticed the like compass, the little navigation, right? Helping you stay oriented. There are points of interest on the map. There are absolutely details we can't see. Anything else that we notice? Italy. Ownership, yes. That's an important one. They also all seem connected. They're connected by these intersecting lines, the pattern in the background. Yes. We had the same thought. Yes, the pattern in the background. The open space to the left. Does this seem like does this seem like a map of a large area, a small area? Small. How does it make you all feel? Right? What is the feeling that it gives you? Um, and that's a big question, so it's okay to sit with it. Let's look at another one. Curious. Yeah, it makes me curious too. Excited. I want to explore. Adventurous, monochrome. Yeah. Yeah, this one's definitely more monochrome. Not enough info. You want to learn more. Absolutely frustrated. What about this one? Rigid. This one makes me feel too crowded. This piece originally is obviously a lot bigger when you see it in person. These are all, historical maps and images. The first map, I feel like things we can't see are significant on the journey. Yeah. What is not shown is very important. And, when we get into conversations of ownership and land, what is not shown on these maps as well? This one's busy. This one has people. This one, we see characters. It's hectic. Absolutely. Ships. This one also has sort of the border that almost tells a story. Sophisticated classic. Yes. This one I think is a bit older than the previous one. Jumping around. There's a lot of information for sure. Yeah. Does it make anyone feel overwhelmed? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of information. And when you're going on a big journey like that, there's a lot to take in. This one's different. What do you notice in this one? River. Yeah, soft colors. I very much appreciate the colors in this one. Freedom. Beautiful. Seems if I can't decode it. Yeah. Patterns, colors, flow. Yeah. Yeah. Disoriented. Possibilities. Borders. Flowing, dreamlike. Boundaries. Yeah. This one we're unclear of what it's a map of, but it makes us feel a type of way. Yeah. These are all things you can consider when creating your own map. Okay. This one's different. Any reflections on this one? This is a celestial map. Playful. The circular is different. Artistic, telling a story. Yeah. Yeah. This one has a lot more images, a sense of movement. Yes. Yeah. I also noticed this one doesn't have land. Traditionally, when we talk about maps on Earth, at least, we think of land and water. Um, I noticed that this one doesn't have that. And that's something you can also consider when creating your map. Feels like it's rotating. Yeah. Yeah. This map is a celestial map. So it, I believe, is mapping the skies and like astrology patterns and moons. Um, but it leaves you with a sense of wondering, right? Wanting to know more. What do these figures represent? Are they trying to tell us something? Are they just moving along their journey? Yeah. Would this map feel different to you all if it was in color? Here's another map. Yeah, I think it would feel different in color. Yeah. This is a map of Venice, completely different than the others. Right? Lots of detail. We see buildings, waterways, we see plants, even boats. Are those plants or boats? Both. Lots of color. Not lots, but well organized. Yeah, I believe that this is a little bit more, not quite as old as some of the other ones we were looking at. But we see the waterways of Venice coming through the city and connecting it. Delineated areas of land and sea, absolutely. Which makes sense for Venice, of course. And it makes us think about what is connecting the different areas of this map. What is connecting the ways we move through this space? Another one. This one's presumably of New York, because I see the Statue of Liberty there. This one's a lot more colorful. Images, icons. This one's also very different. This is actually by Jasper Johns, the artist. What do you think this one is saying? What does this map communicate to you? decay. Seems to be contrasting an idea, but I'm not sure what it is. Yeah. Yeah, they do seem to be contrasted. Scary. Yeah. This piece is called Two Maps, or Maps Two, by Jasper Johns. Um, and it's a map of the United States, right? Charred land. Does anyone want to take a guess at maybe what he might have been saying, or what does it say to you? And I don't know. I don't know the answer of what he was saying with this, but I do think it's an interesting piece. Altered states. Oh, I love that. Becoming diffuse. Yeah. I also, borders getting more defined. We are in trouble. That too. Yes. I find it really interesting that the land around the actual land, like we have the land and then the sea is the same color as the land in a lot of respects, same value, which is interesting. And here's some more maps. Here's maps of some bodies. Maps of some streets. There are a lot of ways we can represent maps and journeys and chart a course, right? So at this stage, I would like you, I'm gonna give you some time to work on your maps individually and process through some of the things that we talked about. And I'm gonna invite you to think about some of these hallmarks of resilience and how they relate to different aspects of maps. Points of interest, waterways. What textures or colors or patterns create the terrain of your map? How long or short is the journey? How does it feel to you? And if anyone would like to put things in the chat of different ways that we could represent the journey or represent things on your map, you're welcome to. All right. I am going to pull up. Okay. So this is a guide for you all. If you get a little lost or confused, you need some guidance. To make sure everyone is following me. Okay. I was thinking my compass would be integrity. That is so beautiful. That is really powerful. Integrity as a compass. Yeah. Yeah. And where is it pointing? Where is it leading you? I love that. Thank you for sharing. This is a guide for you all as you move forward, right? Points of interest along the journey across the whole map. Here are some things that you can think about. Colors, textures, patterns, terrains, weather patterns, points of interest, highways, peaks and valleys, water, food sources, or any of things of interest that you might collect along the way. And I'm going to leave this up here while I give you guys about 10 to 15 minutes to work individually on your maps. And feel free to keep sharing your thoughts or the things that are coming up for you in the chat, so we can work with them as a community. Now at this point, you're welcome to, yes, I can make it bigger, but what I was also going to let you know is at this point, you're welcome to move it on your own. You should be able to move the whiteboard on your own and guide your own screen. You can zoom in and zoom out. And you can actually even go to the other pages if you want to look at um, the resilient slides. You can go back and look at those as well. So you don't have to follow my screen. And I will bring you all back when it's time to, when I need y'all to follow my screen. But I will zoom in a little bit more. Is that good? Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. I'm going to put a 10-minute little timer on here so we all know where we're at as you all work on your pieces. Let's see. Creativity is definitely a must for resiliency. Would you like to say more about that? I mean, I agree, but in what ways do you see creativity being a must for your journey in resiliency? Helps you reframe situations? Absolutely. Yeah. Can also help you look at solutions you didn't think were possible, which goes along with the flexibility that came up earlier, the cognitive flexibility, the ability to transform nothing or anything into something positive or entertaining or beautiful. Yeah. To make meaning. Yeah. Making meaning is an important part of our movement through experiences, of our narratives of who we are as human beings. Yeah. It's so important that we're able to make meaning from our experiences, especially the bad ones. And in trauma work, when we work with clinical trauma, making meaning is an important piece of that work. How do we make meaning of the experience? Narrative is important. What are the stories we know and tell and believe about who we are and how we have become who we are? What are the narratives that exist in our society that impact who we are? How does that narrative impact your story, your resilience, your journey, your map? What are the things along the journey that you might not be able to control? There might be some unexpected things that you might not be able to control, or things that hurdles that you might have to overcome along the journey. There might be deserts. relationships, situational happenings, all these things that come up to throw us off our axis. How do we bring it back when we're thrown off? How do we ground ourselves? How do we move through? And that's also a space to talk about coping. What are our coping skills? How do we cope? Everybody has coping skills. Some are more adaptive than others. What are the things you use to get over the hurdles? How do you climb the mountain? And as we have these conversations, keep working on your map and building out those points of interest, those hallmarks, as well as the in-between spaces, the spaces that connect it, the spaces that create the environment. Okay. Now I'm going to invite you all, whether or not you're done, you can keep working if not, just to slowly come back to the group and take this moment. You can stretch or just come back to your body, attend to what you need. Beautiful. I realize some destinations require taking an airplane, a leap of faith through flight. Yeah. Growth mindset airlines. Yes. Yeah. Some distances are farther to travel. Some distances maybe can't be traveled by foot, maybe can't be traveled alone. Yeah. And one of the things I'm noticing in all of your responses is everyone's is very different. Michelle describes a cobblestone path that's connecting each of these pieces and intentionally moving them forward. Holly describes having points that are far away from each other and might require some distance to travel. What do you need for that journey? Stories are the center of my map. My countries are creativity, people connected, meaning, joy, play, humor. Nature is my compass. Yes. Stories are the center of my map. That's beautiful. And it does bring us to like the thought of what are the stories that are central to you? Um, that's a big question. But what stories are important in your map, in your journey, in your story? What colors and textures and shapes did you all choose to represent this? Stone, jagged lines that touch but don't intersect. Distance. How close or far does resilience feel to you? When we're looking at our maps, as you all look at your individual maps, I really invite you to try to look at it and ask yourself, how does it make me feel? What did I choose to add to this journey? Is it a long journey? Is it a short journey? What is surrounding those like areas of interest, those points of interest? Are there water sources? Is there a place for you to gather supplies? What's important to you? What are your coping skills? And maybe that's also a conversation we can have around what, how did you choose to represent the way that you cope on your map, or did you? These maps do not need to be finished. They can keep working and growing with, but in conclusion, understanding the core features and characteristics of resilience allows us to develop insight as to how we can strengthen our ability to cope and our ability to respond to adversity, to stress. And when we spend time taking care of these things and bringing some intentionality around them, we can enhance our resilience, we can strengthen our ability to function and our capacity to face challenges in life, and by extension, our communities. Okay. Now, I'm going to answer Michelle's question. I work with women with chronic pain and homelessness. Could this be done more of a junk journal with a variety of craft supplies? Speaking of junk journals, I made my map as a tiny booklet. I love that. Um, Feel free to share it if you want, no pressure. I love zines are another fun way to explore things like this. And yes, it can absolutely be done as a junk journal with a bunch of craft supplies. This can be adapted however feels salient for you and for the people that you work with. Um, Part of that is being creative and flexible and meeting people where they are at and with their needs. So absolutely. Um, Maybe another way to do this would be, typically in therapy, there's something called sand tray, right? Having little figures in the sand represent the spaces. There are a lot of ways to expand this project, and a junk journal is one of them, allowing people to collect things and see how they resonate with their individual journey and put them along their path. It's something I also like to do with timelines and narratives, which we've spoken about. right? Um, Bringing in pieces from that person's life is so impactful. Absolutely. Does that answer your question, Michelle? Do you have another question? Or are there any other questions that I can answer for anybody on resiliency, on neurodiversity, on expressive arts in therapy, and creative approaches in therapy, or mental health in general? Yes, you're welcome, Michelle. Any questions on resilience as well? Okay. Any suggestions, recommendations on how we can define resilience for ourselves? I think you're in the process of doing that. That's what this exercise is doing. And resilience is a dynamic thing. It changes person to person, and the way we work with it changes person to person. But by integrating and bringing intentionality as to how we move through difficulty and bringing intentionality in those spaces to how do we cope? How do we respond to stress? How do we communicate when we're stressed? How do we reach out for help? Um, these are all important pieces in defining resilience for ourselves and exploring how you cope, how you respond to difficulties in life. Um, those are important pieces in defining resilience for yourself and what it means for you. And usually I start with what are your coping skills and are they working for you? Right? Um, yes, I will be sharing my contact here. I will actually move this to the next slide. My contact info is on here. Boom. There's my contact information, my email, my website, my Psychology Today profile, and then my link tree, which if you're interested in keeping up with any other workshops I offer, you can follow me on different things through there. How do you combat clients saying, I don't have anything, how can I create this? Michelle, are you referring to supplies or internal resources? Um, no, they're moods. Um, so it's a like they're coming from a place of I don't have any resilience or any coping skills or anything. Um, my response is always, well, you have something, right? Everybody has a means of coping with distress, with trauma, with adversity. And what are those things? And how can we shift them a little bit to make things easier for you? And what is accessible to you? There is a helplessness and a hopelessness that I hear in that client approach, the way that they're meeting you. And that can be really difficult, especially when somebody is facing enormous hurdles socially, culturally, in society. And it's very common, and it's terrible. It's awful to see. But that's that optimism piece that comes in, and self-efficacy, right? How do we empower them to see what they can change, what is within their control, where we can build for them? Is that helpful, Michelle? Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy working with people with really deep hopelessness. But everybody has some resource. Everybody has some grit, some resilience, that something that keeps them going. And tapping into that is a starting point, and then building. Shellbird, not sure if this will work. Ah, thank you for your booklet map pages. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see. Let's see. Any other questions that I missed? What's for healing or? Okay. Any other final questions or concerns? Final reflections? No? Okay, thank you, everybody. Oh, and here, let me put the references up because we got to do that too. Let's see, thank you. Heidi, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you so much for leading us through this resiliency journey. And I think for HOPE attendees that attended last month's session, this is something that you may want to add your completed map to your care kit. So thank you all for joining us today. And I'd like to extend our appreciation for our donors and the LA Department of Arts and Culture for their support of this series. I did put the link to the survey in the chat, but you'll also receive a follow-up email that includes not only the survey link, but a number of other resources as well as contact information that was shared earlier will also be in that email. And lastly, we do have our upcoming HOPE training or workshops for November and December. We're headed into the end of the year, and then also a few of our upcoming trainings for professional development for both Beat the Odds and Dance for All. And if you are local and you are interested in a Beat the Odds in person, and we do have that scheduled for next Saturday, October 19th. We would love to see you there. Please share the information, and you can always reach out if you need more. And so thank you again for everybody for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you next month.